So the situation that's happening in England with illegal immigrants coming into this country over the Channel crossing, it's a hot topic if you like. It's something that should have a bit more awareness being brought to it, hence why I'm making this video. And really, I mean, I think the priority of any country should be its own people for a start. And I look at it like a macro version of a micro version of looking after yourself, like as above, so below. If you are a person and you spend all of your resources and time and energy just going and helping everyone you can in your reality in every way that you possibly can, at the detriment to your own being, you don't take the time and necessary energies and efforts to look after yourself, to keep your energies high, after a while you're going to burn out. There needs to be a healthy balance, and the more evolved you become, the better you become at being of service, and the less you have to, like, the better the balance can be in service to others and service to self. It takes time to get to that, and there's no rushing it really, there's no point, because you'll just burn yourself out. I look at that the same way on a national level. There's very little point trying to help everybody in the world right now if the actual country itself isn't fucking in a good state, if it's still got many issues and problems that it needs to sort out, if a lot of the people here are already suffering and not living the life that they should in what's supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world. The distribution of wealth here, though, has been very unequal for a very long time. But that's a whole nother subject. But the fact that there are people coming into this country illegally that are crossing many safe countries to get here it's a little bit suspicious, right? And you look at them and they're mostly, men that have fit, working, fighting age. There's very little women or children or elderly or anyone who looks like they're a little bit ill or anything. It's just very certain kind of people that are being allowed through the channel crossings. And then there's trafficking criminals that are making a lot of money from doing this. So there's a racket, there's literally criminal illegal activity happening, and the government isn't doing much to stop it. In fact, if we didn't have a border force, they'd be better, because they're actually just chaperoning these people into the country. And it's like, I'm not a racist. I have absolutely no. If I see someone who's not white and and we're in the same social setting together, I'll talk to them just like I speak to anybody else. I don't care. I am concerned about the native population being replaced with cultures that aren't English or British, and we lose the very thing that this country was founded upon: the beliefs, the laws, the principles, the value system. I mean, why would we want to have this country be a Muslim country when its foundation is in Christianity, but it's sort of evolving out of that in a sense? As a lot of people aren't Christian anymore, but the very foundation, the root of it, is based upon similar principles and foundations and beliefs. And I think it's produced one of the most beautiful, amazing societies, even if it isn't perfect, that exists on the planet. So why would you not want to preserve that? Why would you not want to preserve this way of life? I certainly do. And when you see that, migration is hugely up, and the amount of white British in this country in relation to the rest of the people here is going down, and you see what happens in like countries like Leicester, it's a mess, man. It's a mess. And I do believe that if this country was to really, really sort itself out, look after its own people for a consistent amount of time, it could be an incredible place to live, and it could help the rest of the world dramatically. It could sort its own problems out, and then in the longer term be of such great service to the people of this world. And you look at the history of the UK and England, and there was a study done by the Japanese. It was like nearly 50% of all the most useful and amazing inventions in the world the past like century or so were created in the UK. It's an amazing statistic. And okay, yes, colonialism was very brutal in many ways, and a lot of unnecessary culture was destroyed, and there was bad parts about it, but many amazing things came out of what British people did to this world, and they raised the standard of living for the entire planet, really. But then, you can see the dark side of what's happened to the people here and how they've been subjugated. And there's an interesting cartoon from supposedly 1894 that shows that Rothschild was using the English people to expand its own empire of greed and hate and destruction. So in many ways, the people here had been tricked and subjugated, and then were used around the world to bring upon a dark agenda. But at the same time, it helped found many of the countries that are here today, and much of the principles and the value systems are still used around the world. The systems of government and law are still used, and a lot of it is very efficient and makes a lot of sense. So not everything that the UK has done is bad, and we shouldn't have this guilt hanging over us, because I think it's an amazing place to be that's done so much for the world and has such huge potential still, even now, even with all of the corruption. But getting rid of the corruption itself is difficult, and I still would hark back to a video I made recently about being in a spiritual war, and what the remedy to this is in the longer term, is spiritual evolution, development of the being. But then we look at how that's going to manifest politically, and that's a whole other subject. But that's where my views are on people coming into this country illegally, and I do think that legally it shouldn't be like the priority for every single job, and everything here should go to the people of this country. And if that maybe if they don't want to do the manual labor or whatever jobs that aren't getting filled, maybe they become slightly more better paid to incentivize the population here. Things like that, instead of just looking around the world to bring people in here who will work for cheaper to bring the quality of living down here. That to me sounds like a more effective thing. I mean, it's complicated though, right? And I don't claim to obviously have all of the answers to these things, but I give my opinion and what I think is a healthier way to maintain a functioning society in the longer term, because there really is only a few certain ways that you can actually have a overriding principle value system that's going to endure and work in the longer term. So that's what I believe some of the best parts about this country is its value system, its principles, at least at the heart of what this country's been founded upon. And it'd be really, really awesome to preserve that and then see what we can do as a nation to help the rest of the world.